Are we focusing? Are we focusing? Are we focusing? Okay, AKAPADers, excuse me, we're dealing with some new equipment here, which is exciting. This is the first video of new equipment. First overhead stuff. And I'm loving it. Guys, it's Wildstorm Wednesday. Focus. We got Marvel Comics. We got Gen 13. We have Fantastic Four. We have Kevin Maguire and Carl's Story. Carl's Story is one of my absolute favorite comic book inkers. So, going into this, I wasn't expecting much because, well, Kevin Maguire is also like the storyteller, right? So he's drawing it, illustrating it, doing the word balloons, doing the captions. Last week, we did Superman Gen 13 Focus, and we have Adam Hughes, a predominant comic book illustrator. It's hard for me to call him a comic book artist. To me, he's a comic book illustrator. He not a lot of sequentials. We know Adam Hughes from his covers. So I was pretty clear last week. I didn't make it through all of these issues. I kind of stopped at issue 2 when they revealed the Hulk, and I don't know. But we went through because we got some nice artwork. So going into Gen 13 Fantastic Four, I had a lot of trepidation. I'm like, I'm not going to enjoy this. I'm just when all of these characters arrive in the same room, I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm not going to enjoy the circumstances that's going to put them together. And I could not have been more incorrect and wrong. This is why we read comics. Here's the wild thing, AKAPADers. I enjoyed Gen 13 Fantastic Four so much. It's making me reevaluate my position on this. And mostly because of the nature of Gen 13. See, Gen 13 travels from town to town, from city to city. This is what the book had evolved into, when we go through some of the publishing history. They're almost like a traveling circus. And I think it works. It works for these because here's the cool thing. Them entering or getting into New York and getting involved with the Baxter Building and the Fantastic Four is somewhat of the same universe of them arriving in Metropolis and getting involved with Supergirl and Superman. This is all, and here's the wild thing. It's all also a part of the Wildstorm universe. Like, all of this is linked. I'm going to tell you guys, Gen 13 Fantastic Four is one of the best crossovers, I think, of this era. There's so much joy and fun in this, and the way it forced me to reevaluate everything. Guys, this is why we read our comics. Queelock's really big New York adventure. Already reading this. The way how Freefall is jumping on grunge, some of the back and forth captions or dialogue here, I wasn't digging it. I'm just like, oh my god, okay, I get it. You're in New York City. And they're, Fairchild's like, look, we have dinner reservations. You guys are going to have to behave. And, and everyone's like, grunge is like, what? And everyone's like, oh, you know him, like here, Rainmaker here. The night is young, because grunge, this boy here, this dude, he's going to mess things up. But then we segue to the Baxter Building, and I immediately start, it starts to change here, just with Johnny Storm's word balloons. He goes, I don't believe it, Benjamin J. Grimm. Will there ever be a time when I can walk into this room and not see you lifting something obscenely heavy? So he's making this almost like fourth wall reference. It's a Jack Kirby thing trope going to the 60s, and we're calling it back. We're self-aware that the Thing is always holding something crazy over his head. And we also have Herbie, Now, guys, remember, it's not Herbie, it's Herbie 1. That's the real classification of this robot. I believe it was Fantastic Four 267, Herbie's first appearance. Feel free to check me on that. It might have been 167. So fact check me on that. But yeah, and it's a slow night, and Johnny Storm just like, he shoots off to get his head clear to do a couple things flying around New York City. And then we jump, and I keep forgetting this guy, Queelock. So we get into this little back and forth where Queelock is just like, he's like just like green monkey, and he's like chewing things. Now, here's the thing. I was going to do a separate video at one time where we get into where Queelock comes from for Gen 13. I decided to add that to the Wildstorm list. So we will have a separate episode that just goes into the detail of Queelock. And Queelock is essentially, if you consider Freefall a Kitty Pryde-like character, since they're kind of similar powers, but like not really. But this is her Lockheed. So they're hijacking this element that they know works very well in Excalibur at the time, and later X-Men, and always X-Men at the time. But yeah, they're going out to dinner. The girls are dressed up. I give Kevin Maguire excuse me, a ton of credit, because he does style these three characters, these three girls, distinctively different, right down to their shoes. We have Burnout here dressing like, it's like the characters are well styled. And then we have this dimensional rift that happens in the ocean, and this little creature swims out, and it says like, the fish are swimming away, but it's a dimensional rift. Gen 13's out to dinner, and we see, what's his name? Queelock here is flipping out. The maid sees it. Now look, see Kevin Maguire, known for his expressions. Yeah, the housemaid's like, something crazy is happening there. I gotta tell hotel management. And then we get into like Reed Richards and Sue Storm. And again, too, this might be like some of the best work I've ever seen from Kevin Maguire. And I'm not crazy for Kevin Maguire, because I know he takes a long time. He pushes deadlines, and maybe his style isn't conducive of a monthly comic book. So like there's elements that I criticize, but his end results kind of, I think in this case, justify the means. But Reed Richards sent like his sensors. He's got sensors all over the place. We see we're right here in the ocean. He's like, hey, we just had a dimensional rift, and something is ending up in the ocean. So they take the Fantastic Car, Reed and Sue, and they throw room off. Now, this is where I'm kind of seeing a little bit, and I want to go to the back cover to show you guys something. But this is where like the story started to turn, because I'm almost like, oh crap, like what are we doing here? We have Queelock here. He's like growing. He's like trashing the room. Hotel management is just like flipping out, but we get some amazing expressions. And then we cut to Gen 13 arriving back at the hotel, and everyone that is outside the hotel, they're like, there's this green monkey, he's going crazy. And then Gen 13 is like, look, we're talking to Lynch at 2 o'clock in the morning. Lynch is checking in on us, because again, the kids are like out and about on their own. And Fairchild here, I knew, you know what I mean. Sarah, call Anna at home, see if he showed up there. So Queelock can kind of like teleport. They're checking if he's back at LA, but they know they have to go out and find him. And this is what, and right here, this page, no Spider-Man on the cover, no Spider-Man on the back cover. But Johnny Storm, just catching a break, runs into Peter Parker. And the two of these guys being in New York City, right? They're somewhat of the superhero police of New York City. They run into a bigger Queelock now, and they capture him. They apprehend him. Now, we have some weird coloring here with the spaghetti webbing. It's kind of brown. But, they go back and forth, and they're like, hey, Johnny Storm ditches Peter Parker, and he's like, hey, you lug him back to the Baxter building. Free fall, looking for Queelock, runs into Johnny Storm, and they kind of have a moment. And now I'm almost like, holy crap, look what they've done. So let's go to the back cover here, and again, Kevin Maguire. The only people that can homage themselves, or the only homage covers or images I accept, are the guys that homage themselves. And Kevin Maguire here is homaging himself from that famous Justice League cover, Justice League International, I believe. It's international, right? So here's where we are in the story. We have these three here, right? So they're like, let's just say they're in one direction. And then we have like Johnny Storm and the Thing. So they're in another direction. Okay? And then we have Burnout is in his separate direction. We can say like Burnout and Grunge, they're in one direction. And then like the girls, right? They're in their own separate. So we have 8 characters, and we have 4 separate directions. So we can argue that's A, B, C, and D plot. And Kevin Maguire just makes it all flow. He makes it unfold in a crazy, fun, interesting way too. And this is how you know it works. When we get back to the Baxter building, we have a beautiful banner. We have the Thing. The Thing. I love the Thing in Johnny Storm. I always to me, that was always like one of the pairings in Marvel Comics. But adding Spider-Man into the mix just makes you want these 3 guys to team up more often and go on more adventures. They lock up Queelock. And then this is where it popped for me. Because we get back to Reed and Sue at like the perfect time. And I said to myself, I'm like, oh my God, yeah. They're going towards the dimension portal creature, which they run into here. And then boom, like we're back at Gen 13 looking for Queelock, and they see Johnny Storm here, and they kind of gush over him. They're like, oh my God. See, this is what I mean. Like, they're within the Marvel universe, but they're also within the Wildstorm universe. And then they hear from Johnny Storm. They're like, oh, Queelock is locked up in the Baxter building. And then Freefall here, he's like, don't worry, I think I can get us in. Because, call back within the story. Because they had a little moment right here. Boom, we're rock and rolling. And now we see Queelock is growing, and growing. They're flipping out. I mean, guys, how many people can do a Thing expression? And then Freefall, right? Johnny Storm's like in awe. He's like, meet me on the roof, because he can't let her in. But eventually, she flies in once she learns that Queelock is growing, and she's like, what is happening? She's like flipping out. Johnny Storm can't keep up with her. And then we see, excuse me. Oh my gosh, excuse me, guys. But we see Queelock. He's growing out of the cage, and then here we go. We get, and it shows you how powerful the Fantastic Four really are. We have 2 members of the Fantastic Four versus 4 members of Gen 13. And Fairchild just like gut punches the Thing, and he's like, he's like, I'm not going to hit a girl, and she's like, wonderful. It's a short fight, and she goes, Ben, you okay? Nothing aches but my pride. And it's really cool. And we get this thing where like Grunge is like the fanboy. He just wants he just wants their autograph. But Grunge adapts, right? He's like absorbing man. He adapts to things power. So, and then we have Burnout and Johnny Storm going toe to toe with one another, where Burnout kind of like wins, which is like really cool. And again, we're just like moving and we're flowing. And then they trigger the negative zone. The negative zone opens up, and right when like all everything seems to about to break loose, Reed Richards knows how to work the control panel, so he comes out. Reed and Sue come out of nowhere. He's like, I'm only going to ask this one time, what's going on here? And then we have that dimensional creature. He's kaiju size. They're racing to fight him, but then here we go. What's his name? Queelock is also kaiju size. So I'm almost just like, oh my god, like the story had me, and now I'm just like saying to myself, we're just going to shrink them back down, right? No, they actually start banging. They start banging. See? They start banging. See, look, this is so humiliating. So it's not really. They set up a giant kaiju fight, and then they both fizzle out. Right, they go back to their other dimensions. Queelock shrinks back down to his little monkey size. Grunge gets a Benjamin Grimm autograph, and then we end everything with with Lynch watching it on the news. One heck, and this is great too. This is Genther, like Fairchild's like, look, we're out of here. Like, we're Audi 5000. Reed Richards is like, look, we have to address all the problems you guys created some problems, some property damage. And Fairchild's like, look, if you guys didn't capture Queelock and lock him into that bin where the other creature was hunting him down, they would have mated, they would have banged in the ocean. And Reed's like, fair enough, like, point taken. That's just, I don't know. A lot of times with these crossovers, if it's a shared crossover universe, it's almost like, ugh. But this one just worked. But Kevin Maguire hits the character notes perfectly. Like, absolute perfectly. And you kind of want to say, like you almost want to say he did such a great job with this. He should have been rewarded with something. He should have been rewarded with a Gen 13 monthly, Fantastic Four monthly, because the way he can hit the beats. Now, a lot of times when it comes to a writer artist, they might have one or two great stories in them. Not everyone's like a Frank Miller. This could have been it for Kevin Maguire, but in my view, this is his career work that I've seen from him thus far. I'm very impressed.